and welcome, my goblins, to another episode of That GM Guy's GM Advice, where I take the 17-ish years of knowledge in my brain meats and try to put it into yours so you can make very few mistakes, or at least much fewer than I did, and have an easier time of getting everything ready. So this week we're going to be discussing the basics of RP, of roleplay, which is, two-thirds the whole role-playing game thing. It's kind of important for a lot of RPGs to actually have that sense of being able to immerse yourself in the world and not just roll dice and get numbers and that's it. So we're going to make some assumptions here. We're going to assume that you had a session 0 with your GM and with the other players, and you've talked to everybody, and you have had that consent discussion, that very, very important consent discussion that is, it's okay to role play, just we all have triggers, we all have things that we don't want to talk about, and if somebody calls a black curtain, then we know that it's done. We're ending the scene right here. It fades to black. We're good to go. So the first thing we want to discuss is actually something really, really cool that I don't see a whole lot of DMs doing, and that is a sign to be in and out of RP or character. So for me, it's usually this. This means that I am not currently talking as my character. I can say whatever stupid shit I want right now, and it's not my character doing it. Some people use this, some people use that, doesn't really matter. And that comes from a place where I've participated in a few LARPs, and this is super convenient when you don't want your character spoiling plans to another character kind of thing. So use this. Use a symbol, just whatever symbol it may be, to actually say, hey, this isn't my character talking, this is me. Now, you have to be smart about it. Keep in mind that if you are in the middle of combat, let's say, you only have 6 seconds per turn in D&D 5e, 6 seconds per turn in Pathfinder, 10 seconds for a lot of other games, or even 25 seconds for the longer ones. Don't start just being like, oh, hey guys, we need to plan our entire thing right now, Make sure to keep your roleplay in line with what you're playing. So I know that for me, I'm not going to let my players have like 5 sentences of speech in 6 seconds. I will time them like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you're done. That's your entire talking time. Like, I'm not doing that a whole lot on stream because it comes across as rude and there's already enough interruptions as it is, but in an in-person game, you have to make sure that people aren't crossing roleplay boundaries, which is talking way too long, fitting in like an entire hour-long monologue in 6 seconds, that kind of thing. So the big reason that we do this is to not ruin immersion. And that's the key there, is follow the rules and don't ruin immersion. You have your consent, you have your triggers, and you have your immersion. Those are very important. You need to respect those. And I want to talk about how also, where does good roleplay come from? And good roleplay comes from a place of comfort. And that means that's why it's really important to have a consent talk and talk about triggers, because making people uncomfortable makes them hesitate. Obviously, it makes them hesitate, it makes them nervous, makes them angry, makes them sad, makes them whatever. It doesn't make them comfortable when you violate their space, their consent, and the stuff that they've said, I really don't want to talk about this. So you're not just ruining the immersion for you then. If that person starts pulling away and starts hesitating, starts discussing things poorly, you're going to ruin the immersion for everyone at the table. And if it gets bad enough, you're going to ruin it so that person doesn't want to come back. So you always have to make sure that your roleplay is coming from a place of comfort for you and going into a place of comfort for somebody else. If they've said they've already comfortable roleplaying the situation, then that's cool. Make sure you double check first, like, hey, I'm going to roleplay something potentially tough. Are you okay with this? Out of character, and we're good to go. So that being said, our role playing coming from a place of comfort, make sure everyone's consenting, make sure everyone's discussed the triggers, make sure you do have a sign to get in and out of RP, and try not to ruin your immersion. We're going to move on to some basic stuff to consider when role playing your character. Now, keep in mind, this is your character. You're free to ditch any advice I give you. It's not really that important. What's important is you find your own process to actually get into your character's mind space. Because keep in mind, you're not just playing you on that table. Yes, like I said last time, the best characters come with just a little piece of you in them, and you're always going to remember that character. But they aren't you. Okay? And that actually leads me to one point that's very important that I have seen a few times now. And it's been that a game master has forced a player to go through a triggering experience because the character wouldn't be triggered, just the player. Don't do that. That is actually harassment and abuse. That is not okay by any stretch of the means. Forcing somebody to go through an uncomfortable experience because their character could handle it, that's still a piece of them in there. You just put somebody through essentially psychological trauma to get your jollies off. Don't do it. Don't ever ever use that excuse. That's not okay. And any player that's been in that scenario, any player that's been forced to roleplay something because their character would be okay with it, when them as a player, but they've obviously made it really obvious they don't want that, leave that group. Ditch them. It's not worth it. I think that's one of the only things that really makes me mad to see in another person's game is something like that going on. At that point, I get up and leave. I've actually had to kick people out of my games because they do stuff like that. It's not okay. Do not force people to RP, and especially don't force them to RP something that makes them obviously uncomfortable. RP has to come from a place of comfort. So with that aside, my little angry rant gone there, we're going to talk about 3 filters to start considering while role-playing. So first and foremost is a really big one. It's definitely not the most important. I'm not going to say which one's most important. That's up for you guys to figure out. Your character's vital statistics are incredibly important to determining how they view and see the world. That's not the only important thing, but it is important. And by vital statistics, I mean their skills, their stats, literally their abilities, their saves, that kind of thing, as well as their class and their alignment. I don't know why I didn't just use a thumb, but who knows? Now keep in mind, a whole lot of things should be seen as though they're on a scale. Okay, you have a bunch of numbers, but what do those mean? I have a 10 on a strength. No. You have a 10 on a scale of strength that ranges from 1 to 20. 0, you're dead, don't worry about 0, but 1 to 20. That means that I am a little below, little around average. 12, I'm stronger than normal. Now, what's that going to look like? For me, I probably sit around the 13 to 14 strength range just because I'm big, I'm tall. It means I have a lot of leverage. I don't apply my strength properly, so I'm not like 18 or anything like that, but it means my character's probably going to be tall. Then you like your dex. Your dex can represent your your agility, or maybe it represents your flexibility or whatever. So your character sits on a scale from 1 to 20 for that kind of thing. So constitution, intelligence, all that's essentially the same. You get to decide what the scale means to you, but once you've decided that, stick with it. You know, I decide that my intelligence scale isn't just like, oh yeah, my character is raw, smart, 1 to 20. I decide it's cunning. You know, it's his kind of innate sneakiness, his ability to think around problems instead of just like, oh yeah, 2 plus 2 is 4. Oh yeah, 4 plus 4 is 8. No, I choose my intelligence to mean how cunning I am. And then my character's going to stick with that. He's like, okay, I am like an 18 intelligence. I'm super cunning. I'm going to always be looking for ways to get around things instead of barging straight through them. I choose my wisdom to mean kindness. So on a scale of 1 to 20, how kind am I? How understanding and compassionate am I as a person? And for my charisma, I decide that means how persuasive am I? I'm not going to be intimidating. I'm not going to be like a liar-ish most of the time. I'm going to choose that to be like how persuasive am I? How much can I talk to people and just persuade them to my side of things? And you take all of those scales, you put them together, and you have a raw concept for who your character is going to be based on their vital statistics. Now keep in mind, choose your own scale. Don't just use mine. That's why I didn't say this is the scale you use. Your strength could literally be just how tall you are. I am short because I'm at strength 10. I am tall because I'm at strength 18. And if you apply that to all your characters, cool. If you decide to swap up your scales because you didn't like the way it worked last time, that's also cool. If you apply 2 or 3 concepts to your scale, that's awesome. So instead of your int just being for cunning, it's how smart you are and how cunning you are. Or it's or your charisma could be like how suave you are. Just like, hey, it's doing the seduction kind of thing, right? You don't have to have it mean just one thing. All of your stats can mean any number of things, but pick a scale and stick with it and see how that works for you. Because the big thing about roleplay is seeing what works for you and seeing what doesn't. But those aren't the only vital statistics that are important. Another one is your alignment. And a lot of people see alignment as these 9 little boxes, and that's it. That's all they're going to be. But keep in mind, they are a range as well. They're also a scale. They go from, I'm sure most people are familiar with graphs, X, Y, that kind of thing. So if you have your alignment scale, your lawful to chaotic would be lawful, chaotic. This way. There we go. So lawful, chaotic. And then your good and evil would be good, evil. Down there. You get to pick where you are on that scale. So if I say absolute 0, true neutral is here, right? If I go this way at all, I can call myself lawful. But I can go here, or I can go here, or I can go all the way over there. It doesn't matter because it's a big scale. So you don't have to choose this super ridiculous archetype. Just because you're lawful good, you could be the tiniest bit lawful and the tiniest bit good. That's how you fit. You decide how your alignment affects you. You don't have to be like, oh, because I'm lawful good, I must obey all the laws. I must save all. No. Because I'm lawful good, I can understand that the laws are there to protect people. Because I'm good, I understand that I have compassion. I want to help people. But I'm not going to put myself in danger because that is stupid. Right? Or you could be chaotic evil, but you're just a little chaotic and a little evil. You don't have to be full out, I'm going to burn down this orphanage because that's funny. No. Don't burn down orphanages, please. It's not actually funny. It's terrible. It sets a terrible precedent. But you have different variations in all of these things. If you're just a little bit lawful, you're just a little bit good, that's cool. You're just a little bit chaotic, you're just a little bit good, cool. If you're just neutral and you want to be neutral good, that's fine. You can be like true zero and still consider yourself neutral good because you still see your character as doing good things. Your alignment doesn't determine who you are as a character, but it should be a filter you look through to decide what you kind of want to do. It's not like, hey, because you're lawful good, you got to do this. Because you're lawful neutral, you got to do this. No. It's, hey, because I'm lawful neutral, I think this is the kind of thing that I would lean towards. I'm going to temper that a little bit because my character is more than just my alignment. Okay? So that's filter number one, is your stats and your alignment. That like those are two things technically, but it's your vital statistics compose one filter. It's 1/3 of your character. It's not all of it. Okay, because you also have to consider your character's traits and backgrounds. Now, in 5th edition, it's really easy. The traits are literally on a list that you can roll from. Super simple. But you can also make your own, which is also very important. Your character is going to have gone through some shit, because I can guarantee you there's no real adventurer out there worth their salt that's not going to have trauma somewhere in their lives. Just like pretty much every person on the planet, we all go through bad things. So you have to consider this character's background also. I might be lawful good the vast majority of the time, but because goblins raided my village when I was a kid, I go into an unholy berserker frenzy when I see goblins and slaughter them without offering them quarter. Right? So that is just a little bit. Just a little bit of your character right there. So you got to consider that. Your background forms who you are as well. And it's another filter you have to look through your character at. And finally, the big final filter is who you are as a person. What you want to see, what story you want to tell is another filter you have to consider. Now keep in mind, these are 3 things you should consider every time that your character comes into a new situation, every time that they start like flirting with somebody or anything like that. You need to think, what would my character actually do? What do his vital stats say? Is he suave? Is he awful? Is he horrendous? Does he have like 20 warts and nobody wants to talk to him? Consider your vital statistics, your alignment, your background, your character concept, your traits, and finally you. Because this character you've created is a little bit of you. Just a little bit. And it's important that they see that they're going to be seeing the world through your eyes regardless. You just have to learn to also see through theirs. So those are the big 3 filters that I'm like, look through these before you start role-playing. Let that decide how you interact with your other people. Because as a person, I can sit here and be frustrated at my fellow players and stuff like that, but if my character didn't see them steal that 20 gold, I'm probably not going to react to it. What's the point? I'm not going to chase them down and be like, hey, you stole from me. Unless there's concrete evidence to prove it. I'm not going to go looking for that concrete evidence unless I notice the 20 gold is missing. And let's be honest, to an adventurer, 20 gold is not a big deal past level 3. So you have to think through filters like that. Now, I'm not saying my filters are correct. Find your own. I'm saying that what I've seen, what I've experienced in 17 years is that these are the filters that I like role-playing anybody through. Doesn't matter if it's one of my NPCs, one of my players, one of somebody else's characters, or anything. If I have to role-play someone else's character, it's really uncomfortable for me. I don't like doing it, but I will do it if necessary. Typically, I just play them as drunk because it helps me get into the mindset. That comes across as really bad. I promise I'm not an alcoholic. I promise. But yeah, so you got to remember that all of this is just advice. Find something that works for you. And if you have the time, and I assume as players, you guys have a little bit of free time on your hands, decide what your character is going to do in certain situations. And those situations can be anything from, hey, if my character encounters enemies, how do I react most of the time? If my character encounters somebody he finds attractive, how do I react? If my character encounters some misfortune, how do I react? You know, if you set some time aside thinking these things through and understanding your character and trying to see from their point of view while still working from yours, You're going to be able to like smoothly slide into any situation in roleplay. And if you need to take 5 minutes into a game, be like, hey guys, I just need a quick break. I need to think about how my character would react. No one's really going to hate you, right? No one's going to be like, oh, well, you're just silly and stupid because you need time to think about your character. No. People can be like, oh, there's something good coming because they're thinking about how their character is going to react. Now, if a group says, oh, you're stupid because you don't know how your character is going to react, ditch them. If you're there for the roleplay and they're not willing to, you're not doing great in that game, leave. Come join me. I don't mind. Join my server. Join one of my one-shots. It'll be cool. So, if you need time, take time. No one's going to get upset because you take an extra 2-3 minutes to decide what your character is going to do. If everyone else has a turn before you, that's cool. Take your time. Just relax and think through your filters. My filters might work for you. They might not, but think through your own. If you want to take mine, go for it. That's literally what I'm here for. Have some of my advice. Take it. Take it. So that's it for me today, though. I wanted to get over those basics of roleplay to make sure that you understand that roleplay has to come from a place of comfort. The best way to do that is to apply filters to your character, see who they are beyond just the numbers, and see the scales that they live on. The world is not just white and black like a number, like a 10 would tell you. There's an entire scale in between 1 and 20 where you sit. There's an entire scale between lawful to evil where your character could easily find themselves all over the place sometimes. But you gotta try and understand that. You gotta try and be a part of that. So maybe next time when you're considering some roleplay, try not to just see the numbers. Try to see the filters. Try to see everything about your person and react how they would react, and not just how you would react. I'm going to cap that off with saying again, that doesn't mean people get to trigger you for free for no repercussions. If they keep doing it and they're making you uncomfortable, leave. Because this is a role-playing game. This is where you go to have fun. This is not where you go to be traumatized. Above all, every single system is geared towards the players having fun. Not just the game master having fun. Not just the game master's monsters having fun. Not just that one player over there having fun. It's geared towards each person enjoying themselves. And if you can't do that, if you're not feeling comfortable enough to roleplay, if you're not feeling comfortable enough in your own person to actually join this party doesn't deserve you. Just so you know. You are a fantastic goblin. As always, I love you, my little peeps. And I will talk to you guys next time. Next week, I'm not sure what we're going to talk about. I am sure I'll think of it on the way. Have an excellent day, my goblins. See you in the grotto. Bye.